Welcome to Café of Delights, conversations that enlighten and inspire with me, your host, Gale West. We are at the precipice of one of the most exciting evolutions in human history, from science to spirituality, culture, arts, cutting-edge psychotherapies, new economies, and more. We will explore how to create a world where all can thrive. In a series of riveting interviews, you'll have the opportunity to hear from those that are actively working at the edges of local, regional, and global transformation. Join me, your host and author of the book, Money Come Dance With Me, Gale West, to be inspired, delighted, and filled with hope for a new reality. Café of Delights starts now. Hello, and this is Gale West, and you are on the Café of Delights with my guest, Keri Fulmore. And we're here live. I'm here live in Los Gatos, California, sunny California. And where are you, Keri?
I'm coming in live from Salmo, BC, Canada.
Yeah. So which province is that?
It's in British Columbia. So I live in the southern Ontario, just above Spokane, Washington.
Oh my, gorgeous. Anyway, so as we start our show, let me introduce Keri. It's Fulmore, right? Fulmore?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Keri, after suffering from genetic migraines in childhood, a doctor told her that it was incurable and would be a lifelong issue. A deep inner voice loudly said, "No," and guided her how to heal it. That voice continues to this day and is here now, guiding her clients on what actions to take to heal. Keri has just studied traditional Chinese medicine, herbalism, and immersed herself in a deep apprenticeship with Native American healing practices, and is also a certified functional medicine practitioner. Keri can hear what's happening inside her person's body as the body shares with her causes of illness. She's quickly able to help individuals access the root cause of their health imbalances. She also is able to blend intuition with holistic health sciences, tuning into emotional, physical, and spiritual aspects of the inner road of MAP for balanced health. And welcome, Keri. So as I start every show with every guest, you're going to have this too. What brings you hope and what delights your soul at this
I'm
time?
going to start with what delights my soul. That's a really broad question because there's so much that I thoroughly enjoy. But I'm going to say that for me, it's connection to nature. And I find it one of the most elevating and expanding ways of connecting with not only the earth, the energies of the universe, but also my own inner voice. So I really like to get into nature every single day. I'll take my dogs and we'll go hiking in the mountains. And it just gives me that time to be in the present moment because life can be so busy. So it really does light up my soul every single day. And for hope, I definitely, I find a lot of hope in the love and the love and the eclecticness and the, individuality of humanity. I love to walk down the street and see the beauty in people's eyes and, just the energy that people bring to the earth. I like to call it noticing people's beautiful weirdness in some ways, but it brings me a lot of hope because I can see that underneath a lot of what people experience in this life, the trials and tribulations, there is just this amazing energy of the human spirit. And it brings me a lot of hope to just be able to see that and see how people come together and help each other out. Every day in my community, there are people, helping out strangers when they're in hardship. And I just love to see it. So I guess both those things kind of light up my soul.
Well, it's interesting because you're talking about the that a lot of old philosophers said, well, the human spirit is just mean, and just that is who we are. We're violent. That's not true. Science has really shown that we are all connected, and we are that basic human capacity is empathy, and that is part of who we are. That's what makes us human. And I,
Mhm.
I really believe that we're moving more and more into that level of consciousness that which you bring, that helping people access intuition, but the level of consciousness that recognizes that we are all connected in a
Yeah, and
deep
I like to
level.
think too that, when people are short or mean, so to speak, um, it's really that they're just coming from a place of pain. There's something maybe going on in their life at that point where they just need an extra, hug or hand out. And sometimes we can forget that. And I ultimately feel like people are good at their core and that they have a lot of love to give.
Well, at the bottom of my email, I have this quote from Wallace Wattles. I just love it, that this is not a bad world, but a good world in the process of becoming. And I think every human being is the same way. They're in the process of becoming. And this idea that healed people heal and hurt people hurt.
Mm.
And once we move to that place of healing, that we can understand um, that we are all in this together, and then we automatically want to reach out to support other people. Now, I know that you've had a long journey in your own illness from healing and healing. So, can you share a little bit about how you came to be where you are right now? So, what was the genetic migraine thing that you were struggling with?
Yeah, and I have actually some bigger things to share too. So as a kid, I used to get migraines all the time. I would be home from school. My mom's a nurse, so she would always want to push me to push myself to go to school, even when I wasn't feeling good. But I would get sometimes migraines like a couple times a week.
Oh my God.
And I was told that by the doctor that these were genetic migraines and they run in the family. You're just going to have to deal with them for your whole life. And that really didn't sit right with me. And as a kid, I used to get kind of like messages when I'd be standing next to people. And of course, I really didn't know that that was my intuition speaking to me at that point. But one day when I was probably about 19, I was working at a health food store called Lifestyle Markets in Victoria. And a woman came up to me and she said, "You suffer from migraines."
Oh
And
my God.
I was like blown away. I was like,
Hello.
yeah. And she's like, "Well, if you'd like to know the cause of your migraines, here's my card." And so she handed me her card. And she was a medical intuitive. And of course, it really piqued my curiosity. And so I actually called her and she told me that my migraines were, in fact, not genetic, but that they were caused from wheat. So I cut out wheat and I was really surprised and I wanted to learn more and more about it. And so, I ended up going to school for Chinese medicine and herbology and working with a native medicine man to really help expand and open up my energy field, my intuition a lot more to understand what I was hearing from people's bodies and ultimately wanted to do what this woman was doing. And so I started working with people all over the world. But what really got me listening to my own intuition for my own body was I actually, probably about a year after the birth of my second daughter, ended up with body wide nerve pain overnight. And so
Oh my God.
I set my daughter down to change her, and I stood up, and my entire body just lit up with nerve pain. And I went from doctor to doctor to, naturopath to healer to psychic, and nobody was able to give me any answers. I actually had a neurologist tell me that I was suffering from postpartum depression. And I knew inside me, deep down, that that was absolutely wrong. I was not depressed. I was, beautiful family, amazing husband. I loved my life, my work, all of those things. And it just didn't sit with me. And so I knew at that moment that I really needed to put, my intuition, which I was doing for other people, I needed to put that to work for myself. And so I started to sit down and ask my body what the issue was. Why was I having this nerve pain? And at this point, I had been in pain day and night, 24/7 for a few years. So, it really took a hard knock for me to really turn inward because we put so much faith in other people and being told. So I'm trying out all of these things. And my body says back to me, my intuition says back to me when I just sat to listen, and it said, "You don't love yourself. You need to love yourself."
Whoa.
And in that moment, it's like I realized that for my whole life, I had been putting myself down, not liking what I see in the mirror, being really hard on myself. And I realized that the pain in my body was actually the pain that I was inflicting upon myself.
Mhm.
And I really didn't know how to go about loving myself. So that was a whole journey that me and my intuition took. And I am pain free to this day. And it did take me a little bit of time to work out what self love really was for me. And I think it can be different for everybody. And of course, I'm always working on it. Um, and I did have to do some physical things, which my intuition led me to. I had to fix my neck and retrain my brain because everything kind of went out of sync.
Yeah. Right.
And yeah, but my intuition led me to all of those things. And I honestly feel like without that, I really don't know where I would be today. And I could very well, be on lots of medications and in bed and not really having hope for the future. Because when you're in that kind of pain, you can easily go downhill fast. And I'm just such a big proponent of we are all intuitive. We all hear intuitive messages from our body. And if we just take the time to listen, we often can find so many of the answers that we seek. And so that is kind of my big story in a nutshell.
Wow. It's interesting because our bodies really have a separate intelligence, and we don't realize that. When I had my stroke, I was like, I'm lying in the hospital bed and I'm kissing my legs and going, "Oh, I love you, I love you, I love you." And I realized that as much as when I loved my body, it would love me back.
Mhm.
We don't realize how much our the way that we feel about our bodies reflect back to us and into our bodies, and that it's this amazing interconnection between this amazing vessel that houses our soul and the ability to be in a human experience. So I'm
Mhm.
curious why your body chose to make you do this nerve thing as opposed to something else. I mean, it could have done anything. Why did it choose to do the nerve thing? Did it tell you?
I didn't really ask about like why specifically the nerves, but I really understood in that moment that the pain in my body was actually the pain that my soul, spirit, emotional being was feeling. And so it was like unexpressed pain that was manifesting in my body.
Mm.
And so, in a way, maybe someone else would experience it as, something completely different. I think we're all so unique. But I do feel like it was the perfect way to get my attention because it was so complex. And I had so much like herbal and Chinese and functional medicine training behind me that I feel like it had to be something super complex in order for me to really take that time to connect with my body and listen to my intuition. Because if it was like something a bit easier or, something a doctor could diagnose, I may have been able to treat it without looking inward.
Yeah,
And
right.
yeah.
It was a cause for pause.
Yeah, I feel like it was like a universal gift because I could use my smarts to, bring down my blood pressure if it was high, or, increase certain vitamins to heal this or that with my science brain and the education that I've undergone. But this was something that was perplexing even to neurologists, to doctors. I was a zebra, and that really got my attention. So.
So coming back to this idea of loving our bodies, loving ourselves, and you work a lot with you see the physical body, right, and the emotional body.
Mhm.
Does the emotional body, when you work with people, the emotional body talks to you also?
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you think that a lot of people's issues are really self-love, or there's complex?
I think that it's different for different people. I always say to people, we are a spiritual body before we're an emotional body, before we're a physical body. And so usually things that are in the physical have started in the spiritual, emotional, and you can't have one without the other. But I definitely feel like everybody has different emotional. It could be self-worth. It could be, um, not feeling supported in life. Or it could even be some people, um, they overextend themselves and they give too much away and don't give enough back to themselves. It could all be self-love, but I think it just is slightly different. For me, it was like a body love. And I loved myself, but not my body. So for me, it was very body oriented.
So it's basically saying hello, kind of like, but we don't like you. We're going to make you really unhappy.
Yeah. And, like for me, it was, not even, not wanting to wear a bathing suit at the beach. I would stop myself from that and having fun, or not wanting to be seen or have my picture taken. And it was totally unwarranted and unjustified. I look back at those pictures and I'm like, wow, what was I thinking? Look how beautiful I was,
Oh, you're so beautiful.
Yeah. But we're so indoctrinated to be
Yes.
perfect.
Especially
And
as women,
yeah.
like the whole society is organized around making women feel bad about themselves and their
Mhm.
bodies, and feeling that in order to be accepted, we have to be beautiful.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, so many women suffer from that.
Yeah.
So this is live, and I want to share with our listeners. Let me see if I can get the number in the chat. The number is 1-800-930-2819. We're going to take a break in a minute. And when we come back, we're going to go in a deeper dive into what exactly is medical intuition and how do you see people's bodies and all the rest. So this is Gale West, and you are on the Cafe of Delights, and I'm here with medical intuitive Keri Fulmore. Thank you so much.
Imagine if you were truly flourishing, how would your financial expansion impact the world? Author of Money Come Dance With Me, Gale West is an internationally known speaker, creative catalyst, and business intuitive at Success with Soul. Work with Gale to create a new relationship with money as your friend. Link the soul of your business to the business of your soul with programs like Sacred Money Mastery, Akashic Records of the Soul, and more. To receive a healing money meditation, go to successwithsoul.com today.
Cafe of Delight. Conversations that enlighten and inspire with me, your host, Gale West. Tune into transformationtalkradio.com every second and fourth Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific. We are at the precipice of one of the most exciting evolutions in human history. On Cafe of Delights, you will hear from those that are actively working at the edges of local, regional, and global transformation. For more information on hope for a new reality, visit Gale West at successwithsoul.com. And this is Gale West. We are back on the Cafe of Delights, and I'm here with Keri Fulmore, a medical intuitive. And we've been talking about her journey to loving her body and how intuition guided her to figure out what was going on. So I'd like to go a little bit more into how do people access their intuition? How do they connect to their bodies? And how do you see people's, do you see people's bodies? How do you connect intuitively?
So I'll answer the connection part first. So when I do a reading for somebody, I will take a moment to say a prayer to drop into their energy field. And I tend to start reading the body from the top down. I mainly get all of my information from hearing my intuitive self. So I always like to say to people, your clairaudience, which is your hearing, usually comes to you like your thoughts do. So it doesn't sound any different than if you're just thinking about, your weekend plans. But when I'm reading someone's body, I'll get a lot of information. I tend to read the body from the top down. So I just put my intention into like feeling that I'm at the top of the body and reading things on the way down. I sometimes will get some pictures as well. If that, person's body wants me to see something or if that's important. But generally speaking, I hear more than I see. As my particular gift, I'm a little bit more clairaudient. And when I say gift, I think it's really important for everybody to know that we all are, energy beings before we are this physical body. And every single person on this planet has a built-in GPS system. We have an innate ability to connect with our clairsentience, which is our feeling, our intuitive feeling. Sometimes you just walk into a room and you just know how people are feeling. You can't explain it. You can read the room through energy. That's like your feeling body, your clairaudience. All of us, at some point in our life, have experienced an intuitive message or something that we just knew. We just couldn't explain how we knew, but we had gotten, the message in our thoughts somehow. And that's often our clairaudience. And then our clairvoyance is the ability to see pictures. And so all of us have the ability to connect with any of these things at any given point. It's not that I have a deeper ability than you or somebody else. It just takes that time to sit down and learn what those things feel like and take that regular practice with it, because our intuition is really like a muscle. And the more we use it, the more it grows. So if you want your bicep to grow, you're going to lift weights every single day and maybe a few times a week. And that's what your intuition really needs from you. It needs you to sit down and take that time to ask those questions, to connect with it, to learn what it feels like.
Well, it's interesting because I really feel that our intuition is kind of our higher self guiding us. And our body does have its own intuition, its own knowledge. But when my intuition suggested, like maybe suggested take an umbrella, and I go, the sun is out, you got to be kidding me. But I didn't take an umbrella and it rained. I apologized to my intuition, say, thank you so much for letting me know. And I'm so sorry I didn't listen to you, or something happened and I listened. I think, thank you so much for guiding me. So when I think it's about creating a relationship, which you're talking about with your intuition. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and acting on it because like you said, sometimes we get these messages and we just kind of ignore it, and yeah, we maybe regret it later.
Just that knowing. And I think you're right. More and more, the more that we pay attention, so it's talking to us all the time.
Hmm.
Some of us don't listen. And so
Yeah.
volume goes down after a while, right?
Absolutely. So I like to get people working on their breath and their meditation and learning to kind of clear their thoughts of their everyday thinking. Oh, I got to make lunch for Susie at 2 o'clock, or, we're always thinking, right? So getting into that meditative state in the beginning to clear your thoughts can be really helpful in then accessing your intuition. So when I was sitting down to ask my body why it was in so much pain, I would first clear my thoughts, get into, that really as peaceful a state as I could get in when my body was in pain. And then I would just ask a simple question, why am I in pain? And the very first answer that I would think was my intuition. And
Whoa.
yeah, and I always teach people, like, listen to that first thought. It
Mhm.
just comes in so swiftly and quickly, and there's no emotion to it. It just is. And if you listen to it and get curious with it, you often will find all the answers you've been seeking.
Mhm. So do you recommend that? How do you have people do meditation, or what kinds of things when you work with people do you recommend people do?
So when I work with people, I'm usually just doing like the intuitive reading work for them. But I do teach classes where I teach people to connect to their own intuition. And so I'll often just have people start with taking a few deep breaths and just feeling how their body relaxes, getting them to release all of the stress and tension from the day on their out breath, getting them into a nice, relaxed state. That's all it takes. And then often I'll have people kind of take a moment and connect with their body and figure out from their body where the seat of their intuition is. So for some people, that's their heart. Most people, I would say, that I work with, they go to their heart. Some people will go to their third eye, or what feels like the center of the mind. Other people, it's in their gut. Those are like the most common places that people will say the seat of their intuition lies. And I'll just have them kind of like go there and focus with the energy. I like to get people to take a moment also to remember a moment where they felt unconditional love and joy. And if people have a hard time thinking of one of those moments, maybe a moment you brought home your puppy or kitten, or your son or daughter was born, or maybe it's even just that moment you were laying in the sun and you could smell, the flowers beside you. And it was just such a blissful moment. But I'll have people kind of connect with this feeling of unconditional love and joy and bring that energy into their body, because when we're in a place of unconditional love, we have such an easier time with connecting to that higher vibration of our higher self. And so that's a moment where I then have people connect to their heart or wherever their seat of their intuition is and ask a question. So, whatever question they have, Sometimes I'll guide people, we'll ask specific questions together, or I'll let people just start asking their body questions. And it's really amazing how quickly people start to pick up um, their clairaudience, their clairsentience, and their clairvoyance. I haven't worked with anyone who can't.
Wow, that's really incredible. And it just goes to show how connected we could be to our bodies and how disconnected most people are from their bodies. Is that what you find, that most people are pretty disconnected from their bodies?
I think that people are connected, but don't take the time to connect. So,
But they're in their body, so they got to be connected.
yeah.
It sounds like, but whether or
Yeah.
not they listen is a whole other thing.
Well, because we've been taught from a very young age that whenever we have anything wrong, we should go and ask somebody else. And that's very true. Like we often need help from doctors and nurses and, experts for sure. Like there is a time and a place for all things. But what I always like to tell people, if it's not like an emergency or if it's something chronic, take a moment and ask your body what's going on. Why is it happening? And, like my body would say, you don't love yourself. You have to love yourself. And I wrote a book actually on how I discovered, a chapter in a book, how I discovered to love myself and that journey and what that means. And for me, but it was a whole unearthing of a part of myself that likely has been there from the beginning that was just programmed out of me. And, when we look at like a 2-year-old looking in the mirror and they're kissing the mirror and they're, loving themselves, like I think we all are born with that and we just lose it along the way. And so rediscovering that is really important.
I call it original innocence. And
Mhm.
original innocence is the knowing that you are deeply and dearly loved, always have been, and always will be. And you're right. I think some of it is we come in knowing, and then we forget, and the process of living calls us to remember
Mhm.
that knowing, that truth.
Yeah.
And it's really part of the human experience, I think, to forget and remember. For many, many people, not all, but a lot of people in the world these days who didn't have a childhood where they felt celebrated, treated with respect and dignity, which is, that's the right of all human beings and the right of all creation, to
Mhm.
be loved and treated with respect and dignity.
Yeah, and along the way, we can go through so many like trials and tribulations and traumas that can affect us at a deep core level. And we can store those things in our body, and that can manifest as something physical over time. And so, if we can take a moment to go into that area of the body that might be hurting or acting up, we could then ask, what are you holding here? What is the message you're trying to give me so that you can start to turn that around? Because we do have the power to energetically shift out of physical blockages.
Mhm. And what was well, you don't have to go into it really deeply, but what do you think was kind of the core um, healing journey that you took around loving your body?
I think it was, at first I thought it was, you know, being able to look in the mirror and just say, I love you to myself. Uh, but that didn't really like internalize the feeling of love for me. What happened for me is I one day had a realization that without this body, I couldn't feel the hug from my daughter or the sun on my skin or the taste of chocolate in my mouth. Or I had a revelation that without this body, I actually couldn't be physically here. And it just brought a whole other level of love for myself.
Mm.
And since then, it's been so much easier to just love every single like part of my body, every, you know, piece of cellulite or just whatever. And it's changed me. I had a realization, but it took my intuition showing me those things. That really helped me to find that deep inner love for my body. And yeah.
So I had this friend of mine who had a near-death experience, and she said that it was really peaceful in the other realm. She was hanging out with her parents, but that it was just really peaceful. But coming back, the sense of being able to, all the senses that are, to me, is a gift of the divine. All our senses allows us to have those experiences: tasting chocolate, touching something, seeing the beauty around us, smelling the fragrance. The flowers here are just so amazing. We walk down the street and I'm like, what is that? What is that? Because everything smells so good right now in the spring. It's just lovely. So what you're talking about is recognizing what a gift it is to have this body that allows us to have this human experience. Yep. So we're going to take another break. And when we come back, we're going to go into a little bit more of the process that you use to work with people, and then how people can connect with you. And there you go. So this is the Cafe of Delights, and I'm your host, Gale West, and we'll be back in a few moments.
Imagine if you were truly flourishing, how would your financial expansion impact the world? Author of Money Come Dance With Me, Gale West is an internationally known speaker, creative catalyst, and business intuitive at Success with Soul. Work with Gale to create a new relationship with money as your friend. Link the soul of your business to the business of your soul with programs like Sacred Money Mastery, Akashic Records of the Soul, and more. To receive a healing money meditation, go to successwithsoul.com today.
Cafe of Delight, conversations that enlighten and inspire with me, your host, Gale West. Tune into transformationtalkradio.com every second and fourth Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific. We are at the precipice of one of the most exciting evolutions in human history. On Cafe of Delights, you will hear from those that are actively working at the edges of local, regional, and global transformation. For more information on hope for a new reality, visit Gale West at successwithsoul.com. So this is Gale West, and you are on the Cafe of Delights. We are live, which is not very common. If you want to call in with a question for Keri Fulmore, who is a medical intuitive, the number is 1-800-930-2819. And I am here in Los Gatos, California, and Keri, you are in BC, Canada, right? Before we kind of move on, how do people connect with you? What's this kind of session that people can expect?
So you can always connect with me through my website, Intuitive Health Solutions with an S on the end.com, intuitivehealthsolutions.com. And with a session with me, we do first an initial full reading session. And that's a place where I'll read the body from the top down and let you know some of the root cause issues that your body's talking about. If it's physical, emotional, it's usually a blend of both. And then I create like an email protocol summary. If you need to see anybody or practice anything or do anything, take anything, it's all going to come in an email to you. There's also follow-up sessions. I love to follow along people's health journeys with them and help them guide them back into more balanced health. And sometimes that can take time. I think as modern day humans, we're so used to taking a pill and having something be gone pretty quickly that we don't realize sometimes healing is a journey and it can take a little bit of time to get the body to balance out. So I like to let people know to have patience with themselves and their body and their intuition and know that have fun with the journey, really, is what I like to say.
Well, it usually didn't start just right then. It usually took a while to get to. So if you think about our spiritual body and our emotional body, it takes a while for this to manifest in our physical body.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while before the healing happens in the physical body and then the emotional body and the spiritual body. So all of these things are connected, right?
Absolutely. And we're a work in progress. Like, I love myself so much more than I ever did before, but could I love myself even more? Am I always in love with myself? And I would say I'm a work in progress, just like everybody else. So, I feel like life is a journey and it's really fun and really interesting. And we get certain challenges to help us grow on a soul level. And so have fun with it.
Well,
And
let's hope it's not a destination because that's the end point.
yeah,
You got to enjoy it while you're on the journey, right?
exactly.
And I have to say, I've had the privilege of having a session with you, and it was really powerful. That's why when I got the email that you had a chapter in the book, I wanted to reach out to you and have people get to know you and the work that you do because it's really important. So
So
you
I have the book here.
okay? You want to
It's called Lessons Learned the Hard Way.
Mhm.
And it's a beautiful book of personal transformations um, from many different people around the world, including Jennifer McLean, who's a Hay House author, and some many beautiful souls, going through their trials and tribulations and how they came out the other side. And it's a really beautiful book. If anybody wants to read it, you can get it on Amazon. Lessons Learned the Hard Way. And it's
And for those
Betsy.
who can't hear it, who can't see it, if you're on Spotify or in the podcast channels, she's holding up the book, and it is. You want to say it again? Learned.
It's Lessons Learned the Hard Way by Betsy Chassie, who is the award-winning filmmaker for What the Bleep Do We Know?
Okay.
So it's a
So how
powerful.
did you get on that? Did they reach out to you, or how did you end up being on that?
So over the last few years, I have been working with Jennifer McLean on Masterworks Healing membership, and I do a yearly show with her called Predictions Week. And it's fabulous, by the way, her membership and her healing. So she's really good friends with Betsy, who wrote What the Bleep Do We Know and Killing Buddha. And so when Betsy said she was putting this book together, Jennifer reached out to me, and the rest is history. It was a really fun project.
Oh, it's always fun. I love writing. So how do you? So I have a background in dowsing and Akashic records and all these other kinds of things. Do you use any of those modalities or primarily intuition?
I use just my intuition. Sometimes when I'm doing readings too, like people from the other side sometimes come through. Not all, it's not on purpose, but they do. I sometimes will use some angel cards, but generally speaking, I really just rely on messages from my intuition. I love dowsing and muscle testing with other people, like helping them do it for me and watching people do that. But I don't use any of those things
Well, it
currently.
seems to me that your Clara audience is really well developed
Mhm.
and you're really tuned in. And it makes sense to me that people's guides would come in because they want to talk. Usually, right? They want to say, "Hello, I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm here to support you." Do
Mhm.
you find that to be true?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually just had an experience where I was driving my daughter and her boyfriend. They rented a place like 12 hours away. So I was dropping off their things with them. And my daughter's boyfriend's father passed away a few years ago. And as I was driving, I just kept getting this message to like tell him that his dad was here. And then his dad was showing me like his wrist with cloth bracelets on, which I thought was really strange. But when I relayed the message to him, he's like, "Yeah, my dad used to wear these cloth bracelets all the time." And it was just a way for like him to recognize that his dad really was there and was proud of him and, was there with him for the move. And it was just a big moment. So,
Wow, that's so cool.
yeah.
So I'm curious about, I was going to ask this a while ago, but I totally forgot. The ancestral energies that come forward, do you feel, does that come up when you work with people? Because I know that a lot of, that now with epigenetics, there's a lot of information about ancestral burdens and ancestral
Mhm.
kind of miasms.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes people are really clear, like here experiencing ancestral, sometimes pain from like lifetimes ago, and they're clearing it. And so sometimes those ancestors will come through to help them understand how to clear things or how to, move through that energy. I definitely do pick up on that sometimes if that's what a person is here doing. Or if their ancestors have certain advice or messages for them, sometimes that will come through. Um, but I feel like the majority of people that I work with have something present in the here and now um, life that they're here to learn. And that often is like first and foremost, I would say.
Yeah, I know that when I work in the Akashic Records, people always want to know about past lives. And I tell them, you're in this life now, and if there's something really essential that you need to know about a past life, they'll tell you, but we're be here now.
Exactly.
It's kind of interesting. And what would you say would be kind of the gift that you want to give to people from our time together? What would you want them to take away?
That you are intuitive and you have the power to listen to those little whispers coming from your intuition that are there guiding you. Take time to sit with those whispers, with those thoughts that come into your mind. They have the answers you are seeking. And even if it doesn't seem like it's connected or you're questioning yourself, play with it. Take time to respond to it. And I know for certain that if you begin to listen to it and take action, that your energy starts to shift, your body starts to shift, but you do have the power to do it.
Yeah. And would you recommend, I'm thinking as you're talking that it might be helpful to kind of like go in there maybe a couple times a day or once a day or whatever, and just if you get a hit, just write it down.
Yeah, absolutely. When I'm teaching people in the beginning, I say connect in once a day at least. Take
Mhm.
a moment and ask your body. Even if you don't know what to ask, you could just simply ask, what do I need to do to feel, the most happy today? That's just one thing you could ask. Because sometimes we do so much in routine that we forget to be happy. And that can make a big shift in our body as well. But take at least once a day. You'll get to a place where your intuition is just starts talking to you all the time if you play with it enough.
So this reminds me, I had a session with this woman, and she said, your happy molecules are really low. So she recommended that I go and watch children play. So used to go to this playground and I would just watch kids play. It was so much fun because there's this aliveness that kids have, and I realized that there was a part of me that was really serious, and I had lost that childlike wonder that is about just being playful in the moment. It was really funny.
Mhm.
And I'm going to go back to this idea. So when I work in the records a lot, and I tend to go back. Sometimes I'll take one of my journals that wrote a year ago, and I watch and I'm reading them, and I'm like, oh, they're saying the same thing over and over and over. We don't realize it.
Mhm.
And so I think having a journal and writing these things down and being able to go back and say, oh yeah, I keep getting the same message over and over and over is really helpful, right?
Yeah, and that's what happened for me because every day that I would connect in, it was like, you have to learn to love yourself. Okay, great, but what else? I would have that question. What else? It can't just be that simple. It wasn't simple, but and eventually I was like, yeah, maybe I do need to learn to love myself. And then it was about learning to play with that. And well, what is self-love? Like, what does that mean? And yeah, watching children was a really big way that I was able to kind of get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a Cafe of Delights. We have a couple minutes left. I want to share that I've been talking about, I work in the Akashic Records as my access tool. I've been working the Akashic Records for the last 25 years. And over a decade ago, I started talking to the consciousness of money. And money wants to be an agent for good. It wants to be released from the burdens of being aligned with domination and greed and be aligned with a new paradigm of humanity, of collaboration and generosity. I wrote a book called Money Come Dance with Me, and I'm having a class starting next week, Wednesday, called Money Come Dance with Me. If you want to know more, go to my website, successwithsoul.com, click on the programs tab, and come dance with me. You can find that information there. We'd love to have you join us. And Keri, how do people connect to you again?
So you can find me at www.intuitivehealthsolutions with an S on the end.com. Intuitivehealthsolutions.com.
And this is Gale West. You're on the Cafe of Delights. We meet the second and fourth Tuesday of the month at 10 a.m. Pacific. I'm rebranding to Reality Reimagined. And again, my class is successwithsoul.com programs. And so happy to have you today. And so thank you so much, Keri. And I hope people find this an amazing journey that you can take them on, an amazing journey with themselves and their intuition.
Thank you so much for having me, Gale.
Yeah. Big hugs to all of you. Have a lovely day and go forth and play. Thank you for tuning in to Cafe of Delights, conversations that enlighten and inspire with me, your host, Gale West. Listen or watch live every second and fourth Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific on transformationtalkradio.com for a series of riveting interviews from those who are actively working at the edges of local, regional, and global transformation. From science to spirituality, culture, arts, and new economies, and more, we will explore how to create a world where all can thrive. For more information on hope for a new reality, visit me, Gale West, at successwithsoul.com.